Welcome. In this video today, we're going to be talking about the new moon in Cancer that is arriving on July 14th, fairly early in the morning, depending on where you're at. Uh, this is emotional recalibration that is happening at a deep level. We're going to really just dive into what is showing up with this new moon, these sort of emotional opportunities that are arising, and just really getting into the nitty gritty of this. So, if you would like to learn and listen and absorb what's moving, I'd love to invite you guys to stay. Before we really dive in, just a couple things that are happening in my sphere. On the 13th at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to be meeting for this new moon with my inner circle. Now, the inner circle is a space of collective energy. It is a container of individuals walking a very similar path as you. We meet on new and full moons to really just like heighten into the cyclical nature that is moving, and also with deeper support in between lunations and deeper channeled messages. Sometimes there's tarot spreads I create. There's all kinds of beautiful, juicy stuff, and you can join. There's limited seats available if you feel that call. Now, if you're just looking for community in general, come join the Discord. We have a bunch of different events happening all week. All week, so much happening. So I would love to have you all there if you feel that call. And all of my offerings are linked down below. At this point, when I'm filming this, I only have 5 natal chart readings open for the month of July. So if you've been hesitating, it's time. Let's do it. I would love to sit and dive into your natal chart. The way I approach the astrology here as you listen, as we're going to be diving into this full moon, this new moon, that is the sort of approach that I move through natal charts. And for those of you who catch my live streams, which by the way, I go live every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to talk about the forecast for the week ahead. And if you can't catch it, subscribe to my newsletter. It's totally free. I send you an email of all the updates of what's going on. So I'm going to be diving a lot deeper into this new moon and how it's affecting you personally. If you feel that call, wow, I just talked a lot about all the stuff that I'm doing, but it felt really important because there may be new faces here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Izzy, by the way. If you haven't met me yet, Astraemia here, 8th house Mercury on my other account where I do channeled messages. Yeah, okay, let's dive in to this new moon in Cancer. I've just been sitting with it and I've been hesitating with like the recording because it's just so emotionally visceral. And I say that because there's such emphasis on the Cancerian energy at this time, especially specifically at this lunation. And it really just is this deeper understanding of how easily programmable we are based off of our environment. Okay. So we're going to dive deeper into that further into this message. And I have to write something down because something just popped up as I was saying that I want to touch on. Now, new moons. Let's settle into that energy for a moment. A new moon is when the moon is conjunct the sun at the same degree. This new moon is happening at 21 degrees, 22 degrees of Cancer. So it's in the last decan, which is naturally ruled by the moon and is ruled by the Four of Cups, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later. So that's just diving into the frequency. Now, new moons really invite in the connection between our subconscious mind, the moon, unconscious mind, the moon, and the consciousness of the sun. And they come together and we get this moment of like, deeper clarity on direction within this specific area of our life and for the next 28 days for the lunation and its full circuit that it's moving through. This is a very powerful one because it's in Cancer, the home sign of the moon, ruled by the moon. And I do want to name this is the first new moon in Cancer for the last year that we're having without Jupiter in Cancer ruling, being in that like comfy zone with all of the energy. So there is this sort of different flavor that is coming up here. New moons are traditionally around like setting intentions, and I feel this is a lot deeper than, oh, this is what I'm going to do for the next like 28 days. This is a lot deeper. A lot deeper. A lot deeper. I really like I got to emphasize that because this is like the inner workings of your emotional terrain and how you feel and how you respond and how you take shape and form around the environments that you're in, right? Like water, right? If you were the embodiment of water, and this is where I deepen into these archetypes and understanding astrology at a somatic level. Like if you were to embody the archetype of water, what container are you in? What is holding you? If there's nothing, then you just melt away and dissolve and become, leak into everything. There's this sort of understanding the container, but also understanding the container you may be in is not fit to hold you anymore. Okay. So that is sort of an edge with this too, of recognizing nurture versus nature, like what was brought into being through the mother, right? The archetype of Cancer, the mother, and what is actually truly authentically you. And I feel like what's coming to mind just as I'm moving into this, and just a little heads up for my new folks here, I do a lot of channeling, astrology and channeling now. They just work hand in hand, so we're just moving with it. And I just saw like your natal chart, right? They just showed me generic somebody's natal chart, and this is your soul blueprint. It is also I always say to clients, nurture versus nature. This is the environments you grew up in, but also like we can look at these edges of like how can we reclaim that and how can we reprogram that into a strength, into a gift, right? Everything has duality in it. And so I'm really seeing like we could sit and be like angry about what was, or we can just like understand the programming that came from it and flip it into our gift. Okay. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. If you guys are drinking something or snacking on something, let me know down below. I'm a Taurus. If you couldn't gather that, I love food. So I like knowing what you guys are doing. So, as we're moving into this energy, as we're deepening into this, I feel like this video might end up being long. I don't know. I'm riffing with you guys. There's an interesting configuration leading up to this new moon that I have to name. And I talked about it in my last live stream. You can check that out here on this page here. We're having a Mercury Cazimi happen right before this new moon, which is when Mercury meets with the sun, and Mercury's retrograde right now. And I'm bringing Mercury into the conversation because it's kind of like the homework that we're actively in, right? When the personal planets are retrograde, so Mercury, Mars, or Venus are retrograde, it's like very closely interlinked with what is happening in our reality. Outer planets are more bigger themes that are slowly moving. These are more upfront and personal. So, with the fact that Mercury is meeting the sun, and the moon will cross over Mercury as well too as it meets the sun on Sunday the 12th, this Mercury Cazimi, there's a moment of deep realization that is going to be happening. And I feel this new moon is going to be the like actually sitting with it and understanding it a lot deeper. So on Sunday, Mercury Cazimi, it's revealing things. It's revealing this sort of patterns in this Cancerian area of your chart. So again, looking at your chart, which house is it transiting? That's going to give you deeper understanding. Again, I'm going to be diving deeper into that for you personally based off your rising sign in my newsletter. So come join. It's like, oh, sometimes the words with all this watery energy, it's hard to grasp. And that's kind of this feeling with this Mercury retrograde. It's almost like the emotions that are being moved through at this time, they come in waves, and it's like you can't conceptually grasp it, you just have to feel it. And this Cazimi that's happening is revealing information, like you're actually going to be able to see that thread of like, oh my gosh, that's the pattern. There it is. And that's the source of the pattern. That's where it came from. And then this new moon happens and it's sitting with it. And it's like, whoa, wait, that's the pattern. And when I say that's the pattern, what I mean by that is the programming that has been so deeply buried in your unconscious mind that it is just what has been. It's how you've been taught to respond through the upbringing of your experience, through parents, through teachers, circumstances, religion, right? It's unique to each and every one of you. That is what is coming up where I'm like, I have this written here of like the impressions that were made on you. Like I'm seeing like sand and like how you can draw in sand or like leave your mark, leave your trace. It's like you're seeing what has like left its mark on you and where you've been operating from those spaces. And it's emotionally driven and it is how you emotionally respond. Something that's coming to mind with this is like survival, just like the ache to just survive because of your circumstances that you were raised in was a survival environment. That is true for most people, right? If we're being radically honest. So there's this shift in how do I want to emotionally respond going forwards? How do I want to show up moving forward in this emotional space? So as we go into this, with the Mercury Cazimi leading into the new moon, it's like, what are we going to do with this substance that is coming up? And it's sort of like the image spirit just gave me is like, like an IV drip. You've had like this subtle, like drip of fear somehow, some way, in some sort of circumstance in your life that has just been subtly poisoning you. To be honest. And it's not something to be scared about or overwhelmed about. It's just being honest of like, where am I still adhering to emotional experiences and like calling in those patterns, right? Because that is just the nature of us as humans is we know the pattern usually comes from mom and dad. So then we continue to call in experiences that directly affirm that experience. And now you're like really seeing it and you're like, I don't really want to do that anymore. So, as we deepen into the energy of this new moon is ruled by the moon. So, again, we're getting a really deep, clear picture of the unconscious mind because now, as the sun and the moon meet, it's like, whoa. We got the glimpse with Mercury there, like we got the cerebral understanding, but now the unconscious is coming to the forefront and is like, yeah, it was me. It's like I'm seeing like this like little guy in the background, like, sorry, yeah, like I was what's coming to mind is like the person in the room who just finally admits I'm the one who farted, right? Because it's like it nobody talks about it. And like there's this sort of like atmosphere that's like not fun to be in. It's not fun to be in that stinkiness. And that's what's coming up with this is like, how long are you going to just like let things continue to rot? Or what are we going to do with it? And this Mercury retrograde is deeply tied into it. So I feel these themes finally being like, I heard like extricated or like exercised as Mercury goes direct. And we finally are like, oh wow, which Mercury moves direct on July 23rd, just for context. Now, oof. Ooh, got the chills as we're gonna I keep looking down because I like channel notes about this and like what is coming through. Um, I wrote seeing clearly the subtle, so very subtle programming. how water is shaped by its environment, right? Like I was saying, and I keep seeing like the different bodies of water on Earth, right? The oceans, the edges of, and like how like Pangea was one thing, which for those of you that don't understand what Pangea is, it's when all the continents were together and they slowly like drifted apart into where they're at. And they are always constantly subtly shifting. So there's environmental shifts that are sorry guys, are allowing you guys to actually see, oh, there's the pattern. Okay. Now, this new moon is ruled by the Four of Cups. And the Four of Cups is a very interesting reflection energy, right? We have this man who's kind of like, like his body language is very closed off. You can see it in the card. We've got this offering moving forward to him, and then also these other things that are these other cups that are present. And so there is this really deep indication of reflecting on the emotional self at this time. And I'm going to be radically honest with you guys because you know me and I'm not going to sugarcoat things. There's two ways that most people are going to approach this new moon. And for those of you that consume the content I create, I'm going to assume that most of you guys are going to be doing the sort of reflective energy, right? Of inner reflection. That's what I wrote. Inner reflection, where you're like, whoa, wow, I see how I've been playing into these emotional patterns, how I've been getting hooked in by the like, ooh, like for an example, because I like to bring in tangible things where you're calling in very specific partners in your life, romantically, platonically, like, but they have a very specific quality to them. And you're like, oh, I see where I get my rocks off on like feeling needed or feeling useful. And like, what if I could just be instead of having to be useful? And then we could trace that back to the family pattern of where you were only emotionally met or your needs were only emotionally met when you were of use to the family. Okay, for example. Now, another chunk of people are just going to be very self-absorbed at this time where they're just like, woe is me. I'm not getting what I want and I just don't understand why. Because like the self-absorbed people at this new moon are going to be people that it's giving the archetype, this character from Willy Wonka, the Veronica, I think, and she's like I get what I want kind of thing. And it's sort of like, yeah, you do, and clearly you want emotional chaos. So just sharing that. As we deepen into this, I'm going to bring in our reframe that I've been using for Mercury retrograde, which is the Capricorn polarity, which is like, and again, I'm thinking of earth and water, right? Water needs earth to create the form for it. And you're going to find during this time, especially that Venus has entered Virgo, and like Neptune, like all of this plays together. That's why I love astrology. It is this beautiful symphony and like divinely orchestrated like energy for the growth and opportunity of man. And some people just don't listen to the music. They're like, no, it's not real, which is so funny. But we send them love. And this deeper invitation that comes with this new moon is, how are you going to shape your reality to hold this new emotional response, and or vice versa, like changing. I'm really seeing the power in like subtle environmental shifts, like waking up at a different time or moving your body or like actually like shifting your state like physically to actually allow emotional expression. Now, the Four of Cups, again, kind of coming back to this thread, you're clarifying and reviewing your emotional values at this time. And again, with this sort of edge of like deep realization, because it's going to like be like, whoa, I've been tolerating X, Y, and Z for too long. A job that doesn't value me, or friendships that just don't meet my needs, or I need more, or I need less. Like there's just this sort of emotional reality check that is happening here. Your heart is in this space of really like trying to sort out like what is useful and what isn't, because this is really the emotional matters. And so I'm going to be so real. It might not make sense in the moment. It might be a little bit like emotionally driven where it's like, oh my gosh, and big feelings coming up to just like really show you what you desire. And so those deeper things with the Four of Cups is like, it is signaling that something isn't right. Something is off. Like there is this sort of like, they're bringing in stagnant water, right? Where water has to have a certain flow to it. And you're seeing where things maybe have been way too backed up, or where water's just rushing out too quick, like the dam isn't in place. Like there's this sort of understanding. They're showing me like, this is so cool, like plumbing. They're like, you need to have like certain switches and triggers and little things that like actually help you have the flow of your emotions. If you're not taking care of those things, or they're rusty, or the parts are like I heard out of date, it's time to upgrade those things. And the upgrade process is by recognizing what part is no longer working in your life. And I'm talking in a lot of metaphor right now, so hopefully this is clicking for you guys, cuz it's like, yeah, what do my emotions need? Maybe I need to go sit with a therapist and talk to somebody who doesn't know me and who is unbiased about my life, instead of going and talking to my best friend about things and she's known me for 20 years. So she knows all of my story, right? That kind of thing. And or like, oh, I'm feeling really unfulfilled in my job. Maybe it's time to like actually start looking at things that fuel my desire and like meet my emotional needs when it comes to what I want to create in this world. There is a little bit of withdrawal during this time. And the part that I wrote down here is like really understanding like the Cancer energy of the crab, the shell. You have outgrown your shell. And it's time to find a new, it's no wonder I put this necklace on. I had a different one on and then I switched it and I'm like, wow, I bet this has to relate. And Spirit's like, yeah. So there's this deeper, like, oh shit, like it's time to get a new shell. And then there's this very intense in between process of leaving what is known and moving into the unknown, right? The new shell, and or going out and like crawl. I'm seeing hermit crabs like crawling out of that old shell and being like, okay, it's time to get a new one. A little nervous, might get squished, like might be a little bit tendy during that time. So just being aware of like, again, and for some of you, you've been in the same freaking shell your entire life. And it's like, time for an upgrade. That's what is being shown, is like how deeply impactful the emotional, the subtle, like I'm hearing like subliminals, right? You know, the subtle programming. It's the like, I'm just hearing people like how your environment shaped you, of like, oh no, you can't do that. Oh no, that's not safe. No, you don't want to do that. You need to do it this way. No, that you shouldn't do it that way. Like these subtle things where people don't actually recognize, especially parents, they do their best. They do their best. And even like other adults in our upbringing, where they might have said something that literally altered our brain chemistry, where it's like, oh, girls don't play soccer. And then you were like, oh, girls don't play soccer, so I'm never going to get to play soccer. That like, that's how impressionable the young child in us is. And that's what's coming up, is like really seeing those moments of like, wow, I can't believe like an adult told me that. And I believed them because I was taught to believe in the adults around me. And now I am the adult in my life. And it's time for me to let that shit go. And normally new moons are not about letting stuff go, but there is this deeper, like, it's time to flip the script, the emotional programming that is happening. So some deeper questions to ask yourself is like, what feels outgrown? What do I need to let go of? How do I do that? What will bring more fulfillment to my life? And so deeper, this is just like really embracing the cyclical nature of what is happening right now. This is a season of like massive emotional upgrades that is happening right now with how things are shifting. The fact that Neptune went retrograde, there's this deeper like, what do I really need? Like, what is actually deeply fulfilling for me, and not in the like lighthearted love and light kind of way, in the like, what are my core needs? I need to just be loved as I am and not for my usefulness. And I know that's a big story for a lot of people too. Like a lot of us are in that like having to prove our worth. That's what our society asks for us as a whole. And this is like really this bigger change that is coming in. This is an opportunity to open yourself to your heart's wisdom, ultimately, to really open yourself up to what, and it's so beautiful because I'm just thinking of like all of us before all the programming, which is like pure consciousness and purity, like just loving for the sake to love and like being for the sake to be, and that we get to engage and operate and like connect and love and be magical humans here and enjoy being human instead of like being like, this fucking sucks, right? We need the duality, otherwise the fun moments aren't fun, right? But there is this returning, the song Return to Innocence keeps coming to mind in the collective, just in general, but it is really connecting to this new moon, which the song Return to Innocence is by Enigma. And it really is just like returning back to you. And I do see, especially with Venus and Virgo, like at this time, really tuning into like, how do I really show myself love? It's not in the like, I'm just going to like doom scroll or like, those kinds of things. It's actually, I'm going to sit down and read this book that I've been putting off because I know that the wisdom in that is going to be deeply nourishing for me and actually help with this reprogramming. And I heard the word robustness that wanted to come up, is like really like finding sanctuary within and like reestablishing this new shell that you're moving into, this new emotional upgrade that is coming in. I love this. I love this. And I'm so excited to like sit with my inner circle with this new moon. So for those of you who feel that call to join, there's I think 5 more spots left. I would love to have you come join, come pop in. We're going to do a vision journey. That's what we do on new moons, is we dive deep into like what is moving in the subconscious. And this is a very like I'm going to give the info to my inner circle, and I'm already getting the chills. So I'm excited. Anything else? The best way you guys can support me and the content I create here, of course, liking, commenting, subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, thank you so, so much. This channel is 2 years old, which is so wild to me because like this channel I've been doing for a while, and then my 8th house Mercury one has just like popped off, which is totally fine. But I love returning to the hearth and the consistency of this channel because it just really is the backbone of everything that I do. So I appreciate everybody's support, and I will catch you in the live stream. Come pop in. All the links are down below, and I will see you guys later.